And welcome back to the Conquest Corner. On this particular episode, which again, hopefully will be short, maybe it won't be. I kind of always say that. But on this one, I want to go through some games I played recently with Sorcerer Kings and tell you my thoughts and all of that. Now, as I had said previously, had a tournament this past weekend. I was able to play a little of it, wasn't able to play much of it, unfortunately. Wasn't able to record out of it because you can't quite see it. But over here, I woke up in a horrible pain along this side of my face. I ended up having to get a root canal halfway through the tournament. Luckily, this was on a Sunday, and I was able to find a very nice dentist in Bayonne, New Jersey, who is open on Sunday evenings. So I participated in some of it. I did get some other games in with them, so I do have some stuff I can talk about. But unfortunately, I didn't get all the things out of I wanted because I didn't expect to need emergency dental help that particular day. But the hope is to be recording a game with Steve hopefully Monday next week, and maybe get some other ones in very soon as well. So we'll be getting back to more recordings of some games and all, get some gameplay in. But I want to talk about what happened. Now, before I get into that, keep in mind that if you want to get any Conquest stuff and want to save some money, we have a discount code below. You can save yourself 10%. Helps out the show as well. Helps us be able to do all the things that we want to do, especially as we have all these different things coming out and try to upgrade our equipment and everything like that. So, get into a little bit of the tournament. So essentially what I did was I got to play in the first round. I stuck around for the second round, but I was just in too much pain to actually kind of keep up with it. Although I did play some games about 2 days before as well with the Sorcerer Kings. One with an actual tournament level game with another player, and the other one was a bit of a teaching game. Although what I find for this, my list between the two obviously were a bit different. The teaching games we played a little bit smaller points wise, but the overall concept works very much the same because there's only so many options right now. You have two types of free. You essentially have two types of infantry. One of them your characters can go in, and you got some characters. So variety of choices isn't all quite there yet. And I've had some discussions with some other players who've gotten quite a bit of games in as well. And we've talked about what we've seen. So what I want to do first is I just want to go through the list, talk about what I saw, what I experienced, and thoughts on the army now that I've gotten a couple games in with them. And talked to some other people have as well. All right, so this was my tournament list. And I'll show the picture of this will probably show it, but it's in gray plastic. I'm starting painting it probably today or tomorrow. My warlord was the Maharaj. So for him, I ran everything as Court of Fire. Everything in this list is automatically Court of Fire. I did that because Kadu Kavach means that if you successfully cast a spell, which pretty much did all but one time, but if you successfully cast a spell of a certain court, everyone of that born of blank, so in this case born of flame rule, gets to reroll 6s. Keep in mind, when your character stand is in a unit, they get born of that particular thing as well. So that means absolutely everything in the army was rerolling 6s. Once, in this case, it was a sorcerer who had it. So once she went, reroll 6s across the board. Hita to Parvartan. So that way, in case I get a ritual card I don't care about, or if I just want to be able to get an extra spell cast out. And notice, it doesn't have to be him. It could be any of them. But if I want to get an extra spell cast out, I can use this to do it. Especially, we'll talk about one of the combos that worked really well for me with that sort of thing. The other thing is he had Prince of the Setting Moon. That meant during victory phase, I said effectively, the only unit right now that does it is my Rajkur got to heal 3 wounds each. I ran them in 4 packs, as you can see. I found that 3 I don't think does enough. 4 still pretty rough. For these, essentially, I ran them as a little 4 block and the character off to the side. So that way I could still grab objectives for my arcane conduit, or I could at least have him on the objective. I wasn't always worried about everyone else being on it because that only mattered if the opponent was anywhere nearby. If they're nowhere nearby, they can be wherever they want. But I find that at least gave me an option to keep them alive long enough. The healing 3 means that you can survive out, or if you cast a spell onto them, well, now they're healing too because they have Born of Flame, because again, everything's fire based on my list, so that worked. My Rajakur units, as I said, they're 4 packs. They went with the Raj, a Sorcerer, and the Maharaj. 2 packs of Ghouls, they're both 5 stands each. It didn't really matter who they went with warband-wise, that was irrelevant for all intents and purposes. Both of them, of course, fire. When we take a look at the Sorcerer, we'll go to her next. Her only upgrade was Kadu Kavach, because I just couldn't afford anything more. We already talked about what that does, but the reroll 6s was great. Especially when you're talking about ghouls who inspire to hit on 2s. which means they miss most. So getting the reroll 6s, especially with the way I rolled some of these times, actually made a good amount of difference. 1 Raj, just normal Raj on foot. I took 4 characters. 1, I didn't have more units. I took almost every single unit I had other than 2 stands of ghouls. But I didn't want more units because my goal was to test out rituals, which means I want more arcane characters to be able to do rituals with. Or, remember, the Maharaj, his ability is when you're either starting a new ritual or putting a token on a ritual, if you choose to do a token on a ritual, you can put a token on 2 rituals. So it means you can set rituals off reasonably quickly. So I want another one to be able to help with that. Only upgrade he took the banner to be able to give Unstoppable, because I'll tell you right now, one of the biggest problems with Ifrit is the fact they don't have Unstoppable, which means your charges are very, very iffy. Putting him and having the Ifrit, at least for the turn they want to start charging nearby, really does quite a bit of good. Notice for that one, Elemental Dominance, it ends up becoming... he still has the draw event, not that it actually helps, but the Patron's Gift helps him quite a bit more. My apologies. Still listed as the draw event, but I guess that gives it to someone else, so you have some more options, which is good, but I'm not too concerned about that overall. The other Raj took Shalat, so that's the one where he gets blessed, so only need 1 success for essentially his spells, unless they're scaling. But when he prepares a ritual, starts one, he gets 2 ritual markers. So him and the Maharaj usually were the ones that were putting down the spells to start with. Then the other 2 were stacking them up. First round, or I should really say second turn, maybe third turn when they first start coming in, I get about 3 or 4 of them going. And then they're the ones starting new ones, mostly just because of options. And then the other ones are stacking the points on. For him in particular, he's going for Conflagration almost every single time that I'm allowed to. For other things, obviously he took Bounty of the Elements, so he can go into the Ifrit. And then his Mastery, Born of Flame only healing you 2 wounds is useless on an Ifrit unless you're only down a wound or 2 because you can't get a stand back. I went with Elemental Feedback because that means I have options of actually healing back stands. Now, it doesn't stack with the other Born rule, but you actually have an option of getting the back, and being blessed means you automatically have that 1 success, more likely to get the 4 or more, so that way you can actually start getting some stands back. He's in a 3-pack of Sword Dancers, there's another 3-pack of Sword Dancers, and a 3-pack of Flame Casters. Again, I tried to keep this list reasonably simple for myself. I didn't want it to be too complicated to run, because there's already complications. This is a new army. Rituals are a new thing. I have to time what rituals do I want, when do I want them, when they go off, where they go in the deck. I'll put it this way. The difference between me being in Good Health Friday and having agonizing pain on my left side on Sunday, I could see the difference in my play alone. You know, if you mess up where you put some of your cards, when you start getting your rituals, you are much, much weaker. I was worried a bit about this list going into very strong things like Dwag. I didn't end up fighting them then, but I'm hopefully going to maybe fight them maybe this weekend, depending on what I have going on. If not this weekend, maybe next I'll actually fight some Dwag and see how that goes. I don't think it'll go well, but I still want to do it. At least until my Rakshasas come in. But goal of this list, so my overall thought process in my list, other than it's what it has. Ghouls, if they're not a 5 or a 6-pack, you're probably not doing anything, realistically. 3-pack is terrible. You're on 2 resolve, 2 defense. You are going to crumble away. You're going to be gone before anything happens to you. 4, I still don't think quite enough, because keep in mind with 4, if you're at your 4 stands and someone takes down 2, you're broken, and then kills another, you're shattered. So they only have to destroy 3 to take out all 4. 3's not that tough. If they hit you with something that can actually swing pretty good, it's realistic that you lose potentially 3 stands. And then you're just removed. When you get to 5, now they have to actually take out 4 stands to be able to do it in one swing. Getting tougher to do. If you get to 6, now they have to take out 5 stands. They are reasonably cheap at only 40 points an extra stand, so you realistically could do it if you really want to or found the need for that. But I found 5 did me quite a bit of good. I was able to heal them with their Born of Flame when I cast something on them. I found for them what I often cast, and we'll get to some of the casting bits. For this, most often, it was Ignite, hey, the objectives I don't care about, but one, it's a targetable spell. It doesn't care about scaling, so I can get 2 wounds on them, which could heal me back a stand, and Aura Death. Because I was running them 3x2, so 3 across, 2 deep. But against the right opponent or the right thing, I could see running wider, maybe 4x2, or sorry, 4 and then a 1 or 2. I ran it 3 and then a 2 instead of the last 3. But running that way, you get some more Aura Death. You get a good amount of hits because these guys are tons of attacks. They don't hit on great numbers, but if the sorcerer went, cast a spell on them, now they healed back something maybe. They have Aura Death, get them into someone, you reroll the 6s. Now you can actually put some damage through. You will struggle against things with super crit armor, but even then, just make them roll enough dice. They will fail some results. So I found, that's one of the few spells you can target out. If you're going all fire, what I found, I don't think that's probably the best idea overall. I don't mind it though. I will say I didn't really miss air. The only spot is maybe for my flame casters to get some rerolls, but this was better. The reroll of the 6s is better than full rerolls because it was full for everyone. On them it would help, but then I'm losing the spell that he can cast, the Maharaj, and the Maharaj actually has a damaging spell, which is what I used mostly for him. For the Raj, it was mostly Molten Blades when I'm rushing in, unless there was absolutely times when Reeds and Fire and Giving Dread was much more important. If I thought I could take you out, either I didn't need the cleave because it didn't help me, or I'm worried about what you hit back with, Dread and Aura Death was actually a much better plan. I used that a lot more than I thought I would. I thought I would essentially only ever use Molten Blades. Yeah, it's good, but if someone does evade or something like that, it doesn't help you at all. I found Wreathed in Flame Wreathed in Fire, my pledges did a lot of good. I never once cast Storm's Wrath. I never once wanted Storm's Wrath. Now, partly because I also played against some Nords, but even then, I had no interest in it. And Windkiss Blades, no. Not for, maybe because it's a better attunement just to try to heal back a stand? But even then, what you gain, I found sword dancers go down really quick if someone wants to. So I guess, no, sorry. Even counters, none of those help. They don't help you become defensive, so I don't really want any of those. Not realistically. I said the Maharaj, for his spells, almost entirely casting Burn to Cinders, because since everything is Born of Flame in this list, then that means if one of my regiments is in contact, 3 extra, it was realistic for him to get to 7 and 8 hits. 7 to 8 hits, they fail at least a few, you make him take morale on it, you really start damaging some people down. It starts doing quite a bit of good. And again, he can do that Reeds and Flames. He can give an Aura Death as well if you need it. I didn't really do much with the draw event stuff. It just didn't come up. I think it's good, but I was dealing more for damage. What I found with what we have currently out, we need to get the output where we can because we don't have good quality output. We tend to have more quantity. So you just need more dice. I need to make you roll more because I'm not doing a cleave 2. I'm not doing big brutal impacts. I'm not getting quality in. So I just had to make you roll enough that you're just going to fail dice. And that's why I tend to use that. So that's why I took the Parvaratin, because that way if I get a spell card, or a ritual card I should say, that I don't care about, hey, I ditch it and I get a spell. Notice you remove it from play, so and it is activated, so you do have to keep that in mind. It is activated and then you remove it from play. So I used that on multiple times. Like I said, when I had, say, maybe intrusive thoughts because, he didn't get within 12 by the time it came up. All right, that's fine. I'm going to use this with intrusive thoughts. I'll do, that hit. I'll do Burn to Cinders. Then he'll Burn to Cinders, and then Conflagration. He'll Burn to Cinders. So he's theoretically casting it multiple times in a turn. Or would I use that on more than one occasion? When I had Conflagration ready, I would have, say, the Sorcerer go, cast Conflagration. That means use Conflagration, so that way she casts any of her spells. Ideally, it doesn't matter too much which, although usually Ignite. cast that onto a unit of Efreet, probably with the Brute Raj in there. Now that she's gone with that, they have the elemental rule, which means since the previous card was a ritual, I get an extra action, which means now I can move, charge, and assault. That extra action makes up for the fact that in general, we do not have Unstoppable. There's some ways to get it. Like I said, we talked about the banner and there's some draw event stuff, but in general, we don't have it. So now I can be sure that I get in, or I can cover a much longer distance. Now I'm in, I get my swings. Should be able to do reasonably well. Essentially, I'm hitting on 4s because I charged in, 4s re-rolling 6s. So I'm as good as essentially being double inspired. About as good as you could hope for. You take some damage. Again, I'm just going for amount of attacks because I'm 6 attacks a guy other than my leader, my Raj getting full re-rolls. So realistically, I'm getting 18, 19. You're getting probably 13, 14 or so through. You're going to fail some. You'll take morale. You'll take some. And then when you go, you're in base with 4 stands. You're taking 8 Aura of Death. Remove another stand or maybe more depending on exactly what happens. That worked as a great little combination. What I found, obviously one of the other things is the Raj could go before they go so that the Raj gives them cleave or whatever world he wants, and then they go, although then they don't have the extra action. You could have the Raj go early, do that, maybe a conflagration or some other ritual later, then have the Efreet go. What I found, tempo is very, very important in this army, and they have ways to up tempo. Elemental is an absolute way to up tempo. I've actually used it in spots where I'm just moving the whole time so I can cover the distances. 6 is a good speed, but this is a wide board game, and a lot of your other stuff is a bit slower and not hardy and doesn't hit so great. Rajakur are fine, but even then, at 4 wounds a stand, they'll still just go down if you make me roll a bunch of dice. So these were the things that I needed to get across the board to actually deal good amounts of damage to people, which means the extra action absolutely does a lot of good. So that conflagration, if I get to use that, hey, I got a spell onto you. Now these guys are wherever I need them to be. They're into some other unit. You're hitting someone before they can get to you. I found that in general, the units collapse pretty quick. You're not very survivable, at least in my estimate, at least compared to the games that I've played and the things that I've seen. My other game was against some city-state stuff. There was some Minotaurs there, and I just watched like a whole unit just crumble away in front of them. It was rough. But, I mean, hey, it's a game. That's the way it goes. I found that tempo matters so much for them, and you have to find a way to keep up the tempo. So, ways to keep up the tempo. Your ritual cards triggering the unit afterwards, so when they go greatly matters. There's some rituals you want to go very late with, potentially. Like I said, hey, stopping you from scoring, intrusive thoughts is a pretty good late round option, but I don't really want to wait because maybe I'm just wanting to use it for the elemental. And like I said, the Maharaj has an upgrade that lets him use it as a spell instead, so you can at least swap it out that way. I would say Conflagration was big for me. Fire Dominion can be good depending on your opponent, but I didn't honestly get to that. Spiteful Winds, I did cast once, I think. It really didn't do me any good. Incite Rage, like I said, Incite Rage was actually quite good. The other nice part, it's only a 5. I was able to get that to go off pretty consistently. Like I said, if my Brute Raj does it, that's 2 tokens to start with. Someone else could put an extra token, and if 2 people are sitting on objectives, now it goes off. So I start it in a round, ready in the next round. So you can realistically, if you play it right, if your goal is to get rituals out, you can have a ritual again, if you lose a bunch of models, that's one thing, but you can probably get a ritual going almost every turn, or maybe skip a turn and then have 2 to 3 the following turn. Sitting on objectives is very important. Have your characters on objectives. Your characters are not fighty. Even the Rajas are not that fighty. I lost the Rajas a couple times just due to other characters because they hit okay, but they're only 4 wounds unless you're going to put a bunch of upgrades to help that, and I didn't want to. I didn't think it would do enough for me. So, excuse me. Ghouls performed a lot better than I thought, but like I said, you need big packs. I'm not going to take them less than 5 personally. I think any less than that is a mistake, at least for the moment. Maybe if some other stuff comes out, who knows. The Rajakur, I think 4 packs is really good. I don't think I want to do 3. I don't think it's quite enough. 1, it's a bunker for my character no matter what, so I want it to be a little bit thicker. And they're still pretty cheap. I don't think I need the spare points elsewhere. If I do, maybe I'll try a little 3-pack somewhere, especially maybe on someone who's going to hang back. The Maharaj doesn't, because he needs to cast spells onto people. I found that the Sorcerer can stay back further, because the Sorcerer mostly, the way I'm running with the Kudu Kavach, goal with this form is literally just to put Ignite on one of my own units so a spell goes off. The other 2 do target enemies, but I just wasn't using them as much. Searing Sandstorm I was using when people got close, because -1 to the defense, I used that against the Jotnar. That was very effective. I used that, I believe it was against the Phalangites as well, where I was having some issues swinging through. It might have been them, or it might have been Thorkitis. I don't remember which unit it was. But going into those units. So, a little bit about the lists I went against. The main list I'll talk about was like I said, Nord's list had, sizable unit of Bow Chosen. Sorry, I pulled up this thing so I could talk about it a little bit easier. Sizable unit of Bow Chosen, small unit of Bear Sarks. The Bear Sarks don't really do too much. Mountain Jotnar, which was absolutely terrifying, because it has enough cleave and does enough impact and hit that I was losing full units if it got to me, or almost entirely full units. Small unit of Trolls, small unit of Ogres. I told him he kind of need to make those potentially a little bit bigger. He also had, like I said, I know he had Bow Chosen, Huskarls, that kind of list. There was a Fenrir Beast pack. And the Warlord trait he was running was, or Supremacy ability was, so his lights could score if they had a character in them. This particular play is a little bit newer. Really nice guy. Played the list quite well. I would say that Sorcerer Kings have a very good matchup into Nords. At least it feels that way. It feels that way because they don't have great armor. They do have Evade, but I'm not as worried because I'm not putting tons of cleave into you. So the fact that you're on your Evade numbers you're on anyway, that's fine. I do weight of dice. At least that's the way it felt like to me so far with the units out. I do weight of dice, and Nords struggle a bit with weight of dice because, say, some of their units, hey, I've got Evade 2. That's actually really, really good. You're always at least on 2s, but if I make you roll 15, 20 dice, 2s ain't going to do enough for you. So other than some of the heavier things, other than like maybe the Jotnars or Bear Sarks, Ulfadnyar, I found it was actually in pretty good shape. Biggest thing was getting into units like the Bow Chosen. I was able to charge them somewhat early. I just pushed gold units up into them, hit them, and even if I go down later, that's fine. I tie up for a few rounds. I can get someone else over there. I was able to say my Maharaj over, start casting spells into them, try to weaken them, remove the last little bit, or maybe lower with the Mountain Jotnar. That's where I was using lowering the defense, because now I'm actually getting extra dice through, able to get those a few extra wounds, really be able to take them down. When we look at the city-states list I went into, like I said, this was more of a teaching game. Unit of Phalangites, unit of Thorkitis, unit of Hoplites, some Minotaurs, that sort of thing. I was trying to make sure the player knew how to use his strategic stack well. When he was using it better near the end, he was definitely starting to sing a lot more. But again, I found that not super survivable. Our magic is quite good. The rituals, what they can do for you, some rituals are very strong. Other rituals I didn't care about. Rituals like Farsight, I thought Farsight would matter. Didn't. Nice idea. Didn't really help me. It could. I see where it could help. But I found, at least in the games I played, I started it, and I usually end up just cashing in for something else, or, oh, I have this, but it's kind of at a point in the game where it's not as concerning. Because it takes 7, it takes a lot of effort to get it to go off when you might want it. I found it was just happening a little too late, unless that was my only goal. And I found some of the other ones were just a little bit more important for me. City-states, it was a reasonable matchup, a little bit tougher because of some of the pieces that we saw or some of the rules. They tend to hit a little bit stronger, at least I found. Look at Minotaur units with a whole bunch of cleave, whole bunch of impact. The more dice you make me roll, the worse that it gets. Especially then on, say, Rajakur, if you're multiple, I know they have hardened 1, but if you have multiple cleave, then it's not really helping them. Then they're removing because they don't have evade. So, and at least in that list, some of those characters could fight. I had the same thing in the Nords, but there was happening a little bit more. They could fight, or they could fight a little bit better than I could. So I lost about 2 characters in that game. I lost a Raj and I think my Maharaj, actually, which you need to protect him. Once he goes down, your supremacy you need, being able to swap out a spell you need. He is the one who casts spells that hurt people if you're doing fire. If you're doing otherwise, you have some other options. But if you're doing fire, that's what you want. So that was my overall findings. So what I will say, it was a lot of fun. I really wish I was able to play more, but like I said, I was in just honestly too much pain at the time. But I liked what happened. I think they played pretty well. I think they're absolutely lacking key pieces. I think for the moment, like I said, Nords is a pretty good matchup. I think things like Spires are an okay matchup. I think some spots are really bad matchups. I think Old Dominion's a really bad matchup because they don't resolve. They only take essentially part of a damage in a phase. And I don't know if you have enough output otherwise to help. And the things that they can throw at you, like Cataphracti, you don't really have an answer to at all, unless you can get a charge off. Your potential answer to that, though, is Elemental getting to be able to 2 moves in a charge means you can cover a huge swath of the board. So a unit that they didn't think could engage the Cataphracti or another, say, same thing with maybe 100 Kingdoms. I think we're probably reasonable in the 100 Kingdoms, unless it's an all-horse list. But even then, if you can get your Elemental to go off at the right time, I can engage a unit that maybe I don't even swing at, but I stop you from getting all of your crazy charge bonuses because that's what you do. Dweg, I think, are probably a bad matchup overall, at least for what we see now. Those are the ones I feel most confident about. I'm not too sure about some of the others, how their matchups may go. Like I said, unfortunately, I didn't get to try them all out. Wadroon, looking at it, I don't like that matchup yet. Once we have Rakshasas, yes. But until we have a Rakshasa, I don't like the matchup. I think you get crushed pretty hard by like the Triceratopses. I think, they're slingers. Essentially, they're units like that. And their units always have that extra wound. Their average dies are like 5 wounds. So that extra bit means you'll have more stands left. And really, I need to take down your stands. So that's sort of my thoughts on all of it. That's the thoughts I had from the tournament. My hope is to be able to get some more games with them. I'm hoping to play some more games this week. I'm hoping early next week to get some games recorded with them and to start airbrushing the, 100 some models that I have to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to start with. I don't know. I might have to do some test models and we'll figure it out from there. All right, so that's it for this. So other things you'll see hopefully soon. I'm working on the Dweg video, so there'll be a Why You Should Be Playing Dweg coming out very soon. Hopefully get some stuff, like I said, with Steve early next week. I said, if you're looking for any Conquest stuff, you can pick it up for 10% off. We have the access code below. Otherwise, I said, we also have our Patreon, but hey, you do this to save yourself some money and helps us out as well. So that's, that kind of stuff. Actually, people have been throwing us a lot of support. So it's been helping people, but it helps us out as well. And it really does mean a lot. Like I said, it means that we have made ourselves cost neutral. Now, as we start getting to cost plus, that means that we can start upgrading things that we want to. Like I said, right now I just run a bunch of webcams. I'd like to be able to do something more than that, but that might still be a little bit. Or like I said, I have a machine now for helping me stream with because the other one it didn't work. So we're actually able to kind of make things work better. All right, there is all of that. So on behalf of everyone here at the show, have a good hobbying. It's a great gaming.